Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I just wanted to talk to you guys more about hill repeats. This is kind of a follow-up from the last video that I posted. Wanted to talk more specifically about, how I'm doing these hill repeats. And as the title of the video, pretty much says, how you can train with a power meter without owning a power meter. And to me, again, another great thing about hill repeats is the fact that you can it's pretty much like almost like a hack for training with power without having access to a power meter. A lot of people out there, let's face it, a lot of power meters are expensive. They're still expensive today. And a lot of riders don't have access to a power meter. And if you're in that situation, the best way I would recommend for, wanting to train with power or, specific intensity and keep things consistent and something that you can track long-term and make improvements on is doing these hill repeats. And I use hill repeats for these a lot. Now, I do have a power meter. And yes, this is kind of a disclaimer right off the get-go. I do have a power meter, and I do use it on my hill repeats, but I don't train by it, okay? I don't do my hill repeats based off the live power feedback. It's pretty much just, for me on my hill repeats, all the power meter does is I just look at it afterwards on Strava. I look at the power data afterwards on Strava just to see how consistent I was, or just to analyze things further afterwards. But when I'm out there on the hill training, I'm doing these, okay, by rate of perceived exertion, okay, RPE, and I'm using my gear sequencing. So, long story short here, if you want to train with power, okay, on a consistent basis and make improvements and don't have a power meter, doing hill repeats and making mental notes on what you're doing gear ratio wise at given intervals on the hill is a great way to do that. And I'm going to walk you guys through. Basically, I'm going to walk you through what a hill repeat of mine and how I'm actually doing this. Again, this is a follow from that 1 mile hill that I have here near my house. I got a 1 mile here, and for anybody who didn't see that video, I'll just kind of do a quick recap. I basically here near my house, I've got a 1 mile long hill. The average grade is 6%, and there's it's probably a 70, 80 meter long section that pitches to like 16, 17%, basically. It's a pretty steep little section. And the rest of it is obviously average is 6, so, you got that one real steep section. So, the other sections are anywhere from, obviously, I'd say, 3 to 6%, the rest of the climb. But anyways, it's a mile long, 6% average. And how I do those hill repeats, okay, is I do them by gear sequencing. And I've done this hill so many times. Anybody that, if you want to peruse back through my Strava, leave the link below, look back through my rides, you guys will see literally since May dozens of these hill repeat workouts that I've done. Okay, and I've done as many as 27 hill repeats in one ride. On this loop, I did that last week. It ended up being like a 100-mile ride. It was 100 miles. I did a little few mile extension afterwards, but basically it was 100 miles, 10,300 feet of climbing. That's any time that you can, average 1,000 feet of climbing for every 10 miles. That's a pretty big climbing day. So 100 miles, 10,000 feet of climbing is a pretty big day on the bike, and that's a ton of climbing. Pretty much, I think anybody would consider that quite a bit of climbing. So this works out really good for me. And how I target these hill repeats is I do them by gearing, and I do that depending on the day. So let's just say, for example, I want to just do what I call a muscular endurance day. So basically, my goal for that day would be to simply do these hill repeats at a manageable level. Okay, it's not easy, but it's not hard. Okay, I'm not just lacing it up this hill every time. I'm not pitter-patting up the hill either. I'm kind of doing it at that muscular endurance, basically tempo. Anybody out there that's familiar with training zones, think of it as your tempo zone. It's a pace you could sustain pretty much on paper indefinitely, as long as you had, nutrition and adequate fueling coming in. It's pretty much a pace that you can sustain for several hours. Okay, it's your tempo zone. So I'm pretty much, so say I want to do this at tempo. Again, I'll just walk you through what I do so you can get a feel for it. And again, I just know off gearing. And lately I've been using, actually I've been riding my Kestrel Talon here behind me. Reason why I've been riding this bike a lot lately is because this bike has got a standard chainring. It's got a 5339 chainring up front, and I like training on the standard chainring because I'm trying to build leg strength. I'm trying to build leg strength capacity. So for me, the best way to do that is to basically push the larger gearing. So I've been training a lot on my Kestrel lately because it's got the gearing that I want to ride with. So, but anyways, so I've hit this hill. Let's say I'm going to go out there and let's just say it like I did that day. I did 27 the day I did the 100 miles, 10,000 feet of climbing. I was doing that kind of in that muscular endurance type zone. And what I was doing is every time I would hit the start of the hill, okay, again, I break this hill. Let's see. I'm just going to walk through this mentally. I break this hill down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections. Every time I go through this hill, there's basically 5 different gearing sections. And every time I go through that hill, I'm not kidding you guys, every time I went up that hill, I went up that hill 27 times that one day. Every single time up that hill, I was in the same gearing on different parts of the hill. So for every one of those 5 sections, I was in the same gearing every single lap. So therefore, I know as long as my cadence is even staying reasonably on point, as long as my cadence is staying consistent, the power is consistent. And if you guys will analyze, if you guys want to take the time to go back and look at those rides. If you look at those rides, you will see that the power data. And again, I wasn't pacing at all by power on any of those rides really. It's just what I use to analyze things afterwards. But if you look at those rides, you guys will see very, very consistent power numbers every single lap on the day. So whatever day you look at, very consistent power readings. It's because I'm doing the same exact gearing every single time. So what does that tell me? What that tells me is I didn't need a power meter to pretty much put out the consistent level of effort every single lap. So pretty much, I pretty much know, again, I'm going to keep my power meter pedals on because, why not? I have them. But if I didn't have them, I could be getting the same level of training impact regardless. Because if you do the same gearing, the power is going to be very, very consistent. So it's a way to, so I look at it as a way to really, train with power without having power, because as long as you keep the cadence in your gearing, again, just reasonably consistent, the power is going to be the same basically. And hill repeats, hill repeats and using the specific gearing is a great way to accomplish this. And it's pretty much how I've been basing all of my training pretty much since May, as I've been just any day that I want to do like an actual training day and not just a recovery spin or just out riding with a buddy or whatever. If I'm actually like thinking about this as an actual training ride, I'm pretty much doing these hill repeats and I'm doing them with consistent gearing. And I'm not really paying attention to the power data in the moment. It's just something I analyze afterwards. So I don't really even need the power meter. Okay, but again, I want to walk you guys specifically through this, through a lap of these hill repeats, so you can kind of get a feel for what I'm doing. So again, I got 5 different sections on this hill. Okay, I break this hill into 5 different sections because the gradient shifts about 5 different times on this hill. So the very first section is probably it's probably maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 meters. Let's just say it's 100 meters long. So I'm hitting that section, and I'm in the small chainring. I'm always in the small chainring on these climbs. So I'm in the small chainring, 39 up front, and I take that first section, and I am 4 cogs down from the back. I'm on a 11 to 25 cassette in the back. So basically 25, 23, 21, 19. I'm in the 39, 19. Okay, I'm on the 4th cog down from the largest 25. 4 down from that, hitting that first section. And I literally am in the 39, 19 every single lap of that. Like on that day where I did the 27 repeats, I was in the 39, 19 all 27 laps on that first section. Hit that section, 39, 19, pretty much saying, again, I'm pretty much riding the hill out of the saddle. That's another thing. Like, again, people have different thoughts about, and some people are better at different riding techniques. I, for myself, I'm an out-of-saddle climber. Always have been, always will be. It's just how I perform best. So I climb out of the saddle. So when I'm talking about these sections, just keep in mind here that everything I do climbing-wise is pretty much out of the saddle. And my cadence, again, I'm keeping my cadence pretty consistent for the whole lap. The cadence isn't changing a whole lot. It's just the gearing that's changing. So my cadence, when I'm training, you guys, again, look at my Strava, you'll see. My cadence is usually, when I'm on the hills, is mid-60s. I mean, low to mid-60s is my peak cadence range right now. It's pretty much what I did on Whiteface Mountain when I won Whiteface about a month ago. I pretty much averaged like mid-60s cadence. So I'm a low cadence grinder, I guess, so to speak. But that's how I perform best. But anyways, back to the gearing sequencing. So I'm out of the saddle, mid-60s. So just base all of this off the fact that I'm riding out of the saddle mid-60s cadence. So hit that first section, 39-19. Okay, and then there's like a little short, maybe another 100, maybe another 80 to 100 meter long little, basically downhill. So it goes up 100 meters, down 100 meters, and then the main hill kind of starts. So I do 39-19 up that first section, coast it down, and then when I start the hill, I'm basically working, on the downhill, I do shift up through the gear, so I'm down like maybe 39-13, 39-12, somewhere in there. And then as I'm going up the hill, starting up the main hill, I'm pretty much downshifting through the gears. And there's this, actually, basically, guys, it's nothing more than a crack in the roadway. There's a crack in the roadway just as you start up the climb. And every time I hit this hill, I'm like, okay, I want to be in the, I do the climb, I do the first section, that second section. In the 39, I'm 3 down from the back, so 25, 21, 25, 23, 21. So I'm in the 39, 21, pretty much every lap when I go across this, basically just a crack. There's a crack in the roadway. It's just nothing more than a crack in the roadway. So every time before I hit that crack in the roadway, I'm in the 39, 21. And from there, it's probably a good couple hundred meters. So I'm a couple hundred meters in the 39-21 every single lap. That's what I do. 39-21, out of saddle, mid-60s cadence. Ride that, and then pretty much it's a couple hundred meters long, and then that's where I come to that like 17% pitch in the road. It's a really steep section, and it kind of goes up and just curves a little bit. Again, it's maybe. It might be 100 meters long. It might not be. I don't know exactly how long. It's not very long. I would say it maybe takes me, 20 seconds of time to get up that steep section. So for that section, I downshift to the smallest gear I've got, 39-25. So I'm in the 30. So at that point, I'm in the 39-25. Again, trying to keep my cadence low to mid 60s, pretty much. And sometimes I'll back it off even more. Sometimes I'll back it off even to the upper 50s cadence if I want to just keep. Again, if I'm on a day where I just want to do muscular endurance, I don't want to peak my heart rate too much and my power. Because just for an example, guys, when I'm going through that really steep section, again, 39-25 gearing at let's just say 60 cadence, my power is like, the power number is like 320. It's over 300 watts. Just to get up the hill, basically. Just getting up the hill and trying to go as easy as possible there, I pretty much have got to put out over 300 watts, which, for a 127-pound guy is a lot. So I'm pretty much going with that section again, 39, 25, somewhere around 60 cadence average. As soon as I crest that steep pitch, it kind of backs off a little bit. As soon as I get over top of that, I downshift one gear. So I've just gone through like 20 seconds of pretty hard effort, and then from there I downshift to a harder gear because the gradients come off a little bit. So I go down to a harder gear, and then for the next 100 meters or so, I'm in the 39.23 now. And again, there's another crack in the roadway up there. It's just nothing more than a crack in the pavement. And before I hit that crack in the pavement, I downshift another gear. So now I'm 39.21. So now I'm 39.21. And then I go up. And then at that point, the hill, it doesn't come to a complete, it's still it might be 1-2% up. It might be 1-2% grade. It's flat enough where I can get into a couple of harder gears. So that's what I do. At that, once it flattens that one, it's maybe 100 meter long, flatter section. So it flattened off a little bit. I go down 2 more gears. So now I'm 39, what's that? Let's see, I went from 25 to 23, 21. So I'm now 39.17. So on that flatter section, I get down to the 39.17. Again, I do this every single lap. 39.17, and then the road starts to pitch up a little bit more. I go down to the back up one more to the 39.20 to the 39.19, and then I pretty much ride that for like a couple hundred meters. The grade's pretty consistent, so I ride the same gear, and then there's another little kicker. Before it flattens off again, and just before I get that kicker, I downshift one more time back to the 39.21, and then the road kind of makes this quick, sharp left-hand turn up to this. And the final finishing pitch is pretty consistent grade. It might be 2 to 3 tenths of a mile long. So for like 2 to 3 tenths of a mile. It's pretty consistent. I would say somewhere around maybe 6% probably. It's probably around 6% grade that last again the last two. Let's just say 2 tenths of a mile. The last 2 tenths of a mile, pretty consistent at about 6% grade. And when I go through there every single time, I start as soon as I make that left hand pitch. I start up. I'm in the 39.23. So I'm 2 down off the largest cassette in the back. 39.23. And again, I've got basically there's a house on the left-hand side of the road. Every time I go by the house, I downshift to the 39.21. Again, just every lap when I go by that house, down to the 39.21. And then there's another section. Actually, it's just a point where I come to a tree line. There's basically just the start of a tree line right by the road. And as soon as I hit the tree line, I'm down to the 39.19. And I basically finish up the climb in the 39.19, and then obviously from there, I get into the descent, a pretty rapid descent back down around to the loop, and from there I'm obviously up into the big ring and just pretty much, coasting back around and just riding back around to the start. And I do the same thing over again, same exact gear sequencing over again. And again, sometimes I do, that day I did 27 laps. I've gone out and done 10 laps, whatever the case is, whatever I've got time for, whatever the ride goal is for that day. But that's pretty much how I'm training, basically by power without having, I have one, but without really using power. So I'm pretty much using gearing. I'm using my gearing sequencing. And again, I've done this hill so many times, and because I do the same gearing every lap, again, here when I was just kind of explaining this, I had to think about what how am I doing this. But when I'm out on the hill doing the repeats, I've done this so many times now. It's just all muscle memory for me. I just go through the motions, and I just know mentally and based off feel what gear I'm in, and I do the same gearing sequences every single lap. That's for a muscular endurance day. Now, if I was going to do, and now I've had days where, let's say I wanted to do a shorter but more intense workout. Let's say I was going to do an hour of these repeats, which I can do. Basically, I can do four. I can do four of those repeats. I can, well, if actually five, if I'm going hard, I can do five. I can do five of those hill repeats in 1 hour if I'm going pretty hard. And let's just say I was going to go out and just do a 1 hour, 5 hill repeat workout. I was going to go kind of hard. What I would probably do is on all of those sequences I just walked you through, on every single one of those sequences, I would be 1 gear harder. So, and if I'm going to do, and again, I'm just going to, and this is what I've done. So if I'm going to do harder workouts, I'll pretty much be 1 gear harder on all of those sections. And if I'm going to do, obviously, if I want to do, basically, I'll do a lot of just in what I call endurance climbing. I'm climbing, but really doing it at just like a base intensity effort. I'll basically go even easier. I'll go 1 or 2 gears easier every sequence, every lap up in the sequencing. Again, I mean, that one steep section that I have, that little short steep section where it's 17%, like the 39.25 is the smallest gear I've got. And what I'll do if I want to do an endurance day, like if I'm just doing endurance climbing, is I'll basically just go up that literally as slow as I can go, but not fall over. And I can usually keep my power somewhere right around 300 watts, which isn't too taxing for me. I mean, 300 watts, it's a lot of power, but it's not too taxing where I could do that 100 times in a row if I had to. So that's pretty much what I do, guys. That's how I train with power without really using power. And it's something that you guys could do too. So you don't really have to have a power meter to train with power. If you don't have a power meter, use gear ratios and gear sequencing at certain specific intervals. And you can do this with any kind of course. You could do it on a climb. You could do this on a flat section. If just put some thought to it and just use the same sequencing at different sections of this, whatever loop or lap or course you've got. There's a way you can do this principle to any kind of riding. So just wanted to share this with you guys. I see my video now is up over 22 minutes, so I'm gonna bring it to an end here now. But just kind of wanted to walk you through a detailed explanation of how I'm going through these hill repeats and how I'm using gear sequencing to do that. Hope you guys found this video informative. If you did, leave me a thumbs up. Any questions at all, drop them down below. I'll do my best to answer as always. Again, guys, I appreciate the support on the channel, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys right back here in my next video.